Hello, I'm Mac. As you probably have seen, Sabrina posted a video about me a week ago, and I've had some time to really process and think about what I wanted to say in response to it. As I can imagine, there's some questions, there's some explanations that need to be said, and I hope in this video I can clarify at least my situation on it, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own opinions on what's been unfolding. To start things off, yes, Sabrina and I dated for over 2 years, and we broke up at the beginning of this year in January. We decided to keep the label of our relationship hidden, but I think it was pretty obvious that we were dating. I'm sorry regardless for lying to you for that period of time, especially the people that I would see in person and that would ask me about it and I would lie about it. I'm sorry about being inauthentic about that, but I hope you guys can understand why. Throughout those 2 years with Sabrina were definitely super eye-opening to me. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about relationships, love. I was so proud to call her my girlfriend when I could. And yeah, I thought Sabrina and I were gonna last forever. And I was ecstatic about it. It's unfortunate the way that things are unraveling now, but since it's out, I guess, yeah, we can actually get into it. To start off, after Sabrina and I broke up, we both still felt comfortable with allowing each other to repurpose old content of each other to help grow our social media platforms. From what I remember in that conversation was that we would be comfortable repurposing it on any platform. But Sabrina claims that we only agreed on Snapchat. Going back to the beginning of the year, yes, my Snapchat following was very low in comparison to my other platforms, but Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they're all public platforms for anyone to see. It could be reached by anybody. So being only comfortable with allowing someone to post on Snapchat doesn't really make too much sense. The next thing Sabrina talked about was Instagram trial reels, and I'm going to be explaining why I continued posting on them after she revoked her consent. So the whole purpose behind trial reels is that it's a feature that allows you to post content that will only be shown to people that don't follow you. And since it goes to people that don't follow you, it does not show up on your main page or your main feed. As any creator that's trying to get as much eyes on their page as possible and try to grow their audience, this was a game changer and a tool that should probably be used by everybody. Now in Sabrina's video, she alludes to the fact that I was deliberately trying to hide the fact that I was reposting content of us two because it didn't show up on my main feed, which is not true. The whole purpose is to get as many eyes on you as possible. I'm trying to get these videos to go viral. I'm trying to grow my page with every video I was posting. And no, it wasn't just the videos that were with Sabrina that did well. Now I just want to remind everyone that the videos that I was posting were nothing inappropriate, nothing that we both haven't consented to posting in the past, and they are all videos that are still active on my main feed as of this moment right now, if you scroll down far enough. All the videos that were posted were pushing a narrative that we were just friends, and literally until like the week before Sabrina posted her video, we were still mutuals on every platform. So yes, in my mind, I thought we were still friends. All right, now I want to talk about the text that Sabrina sent me on July 19th, revoking her consent on allowing me to repurpose any content moving forward, why I decided to ignore it, and why I continued reposting regardless. Now, I want to start by saying that this was 100% immature and childish of me to continue posting without Sabrina's consent. As hypocritical as it may sound now, if someone revokes their consent or just doesn't give you consent to post them in the first place, you should respect it. Now, I do regret not being more mature and taking the high road in this whole situation because yes, I continued reposting out of spite, and I'll get to that in a second. But maybe if I could have just had a conversation with Sabrina, we could have avoided this whole situation entirely, and for that, I am sorry. So as of now, I've deleted all repurposed content of Sabrina, as well as moving forward, I will not be posting any more old content because she's right, we are no longer friends, and I have no interest on pushing a narrative that we are for my own benefit. Now, why did I feel like it was okay to continue posting at the time after Sabrina asked me not to? Well, 2 weeks ago, before Sabrina asked me to stop posting, she posted a screenshot of our private text messages on her second account on TikTok, which I'm now blocked on, so I would not have seen unless someone sent it to me. Sabrina says that she made her video not for the likes or the followers or for the money, but for the lack of respect, consent, and boundaries on my end, which is exactly how I felt when I saw our private text on her second page. Now, even though this whole situation could have been avoided, having been on my part, which I just maybe had a conversation with Sabrina, I think there is a difference between posting content that's already live on someone's page and doesn't inherently make the other person look bad versus posting a screenshot of her text, which makes me look like an emotionally unaware brick. So I think a big takeaway, and something that I learned especially throughout this section, is that a simple and much needed conversation with Sabrina could have avoided this whole thing entirely. But due to an accumulation of lack of respect and communication and all the above, it has now grown to this. So I will know that for next time. I also want to make a really quick point before I move on that there's a misconception that I was making money off of Sabrina's likeness throughout the past year. I was getting paid by Snapchat because I was a part of their monetization program at the end of last year, but they changed their monetization program at the beginning of this year in February. As you can see here, the last time I was monetized was in March, and as of right now, I have made no money off of using Sabrina's likeness. Not to excuse the fact that I kept on posting without her consent, but I just wanted to clear up any misconceptions that I was making money off of her likeness. You know, going through breakups are confusing and it's hard doing the right thing every time. And like in hindsight, I should have, like, I don't know, the engagement wasn't even like that crazy. All right, okay. Now let's go over the second part of Sabrina's video, which is talking about the 2 medical emergencies that happened after the breakup. This needs a lot of explanation and clarity because I feel like the majority of the backlash I've been receiving is due to this part, and it's unfortunate because most of it's a lie. Now, I want everyone, especially the younger audience, to really think twice about what you hear on the internet and maybe not believe the first thing that you hear. Sabrina and I lied about our relationship for the last 2 years. So how do you know that anything her or I are saying now are true? I'm going to try to give you guys as much facts and undisputed evidence rather than opinions and thoughts on how I felt on certain scenarios to back my claims. This next part had little to nothing to do with the overall problem, which was posting without consent, and was just a blatant attack on my character, which I feel like I now need to defend myself because if my story has to be told, I want to be the one that tells it. So after Sabrina and I broke up, there were 2 medical emergencies she referred to, both not related to me, they were all on her side. And on the second one, she claims that I failed to provide basic human empathy and quoted that I said, "I'm not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth person you should be coming to for this." Now, I'm sorry that this section might take a while, but I really want to go into depth and clarify everything that happened because not only does this statement not sit right with me because it's false, but there was also no context given, so I want to clarify all of it. On October 22nd, I moved to Toronto to pursue my relationship with Sabrina, which had been ongoing for 2 years already long distance. I honestly thought that this was the best decision to make at the time because I thought Sabrina was the one. This was my first time moving out of my house ever, and I decided to move to a new city, a new province, leaving behind my friends, my family, the 3 jobs that I loved working here. I lived a very comfortable life here, but I was willing to give it all up because I was so in love with Sabrina and I wanted to make it work. When I got to Toronto, I found my own place to stay, as well as a part-time job just to keep things sustainable. Now, I want to give a quick explanation on the relationship that I had with Sabrina's family because this provides important context for the end of the story. I had a very good relationship with her sisters, I had a pretty good relationship with her mom, but unfortunately, I was unable to build a strong relationship with her dad. Not that we had a bad relationship, it was just that I didn't have enough time to develop a strong relationship with him. Sabrina and I's relationship went through a little bit of a rough patch in the holiday season, so we decided to take a break and we would reevaluate where we were at when I came back to Toronto in the new year. Throughout the break, I came back home and spent the holiday season with my family, and that's when I kind of came aware to the fact that I could possibly see a future where I would be happier without being in the relationship with Sabrina, and I guess she felt the same way. When I went back to Toronto, I went back with an open mind, but considered the possibility that we would not last. On January 11th, Sabrina came over to my place and she initiated our breakup. Mind you, this was the 3rd time Sabrina broke up with me. She came over with no intention on keeping things cordial or respectful, and the breakup took over 7 hours, which most of it was used trying to calm her down. Which, I mean, breakups are hard and they're confusing and there's a lot of emotions going everywhere, but I felt like keeping things respectful was the least that we could do for each other after such a happy relationship, at least on my end. This is important context because this could have easily been the last time we saw each other. Like, we could have just never talked to each other again after January 11th. But not only did I try to comfort her while she was breaking up with me, but within that time she felt comfortable enough to share the first medical emergency that was happening in 4 days. On January 15th, I took care of everyone that was involved, and here's a screenshot of Sabrina thanking me for the support. I just want to give a quick note to that because Sabrina decided not to include any of the details of the first medical emergency in her video. The second medical emergency happened on February 25th, well over a month after we broke up and the first medical emergency, but I'll get into that in a bit. The reason why I didn't move back right away and I stayed in Toronto for so long was largely due to the part-time job that I asked for. It didn't feel right after asking for so much responsibility in the part-time job to then just leave them because my relationship didn't work. So I asked them when would be the earliest time I could leave without hindering them in their schedule, and they told me March 1st. After Sabrina and I broke up, we continued seeing each other like occasionally, but tried to limit the amount of times that we would see each other. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of tough for me to be out in a new city with no family and barely any friends, and finding comfort and familiarity in someone, even if they're an ex, was nice sometimes. So we hung out here and there as friends, but on January 27th, she asked if we could try the relationship again. Now, every other time she's asked me to do this, I've always said yes, but this time I asked if I could have some time to think about it. Now, I want you to keep in mind that in between the time of when she asked to break up versus when she asked to get back into the relationship, in between that time, I not only gave the job my notice that I was going to be quitting, I applied and received a job that I would be getting back when I got home. I started the moving process as well as was looking at flights. So I was already on my way out of Toronto at this time. I just needed to wait out the period of working out the job and then I could leave. On February 1st, a couple of days after she asked to get back together, she got invited to this event where most of the creators at this event knew that we used to date, but did not know that we broke up. Sabrina practically begged me to go to this event with her, which I was hesitant on going because I didn't know if it would be pushing my boundaries. I did eventually end up going to this event, but she asked if we could pretend like we were still in a relationship so that we wouldn't make things awkward for the others. This was one of two instances where Sabrina took advantage of the situation that I was in alone in Toronto and found comfort in her, which was supposedly supposed to be as a friend. On February 12th, I finalized my decision on moving out of Toronto and I booked my flight for March 1st. I told Sabrina that I would be flying out, but on February 13th, she asked me if we could spend Valentine's Day together as friends. This was the second instance I was referring to. Yes, I am part to blame. The way that she made it seem was that she didn't want to be alone on Valentine's Day, and quite honestly, neither did I. But I specifically asked her if we could make the day not too romantic because that would be weird and awkward. And I did just book my flight out. Like, I'm going to be leaving. I'm not getting back together in the relationship. And she said that it wouldn't be too romantic, which could not have been further from the truth. Sabrina initiated a full day for us, which honestly, I would have been the happiest person in the world if this was done for me, if I was in a relationship. But since that wasn't the case, this was just a blatant overlook of my boundaries. She also tried to guilt trip me into it. Like, she said that everything was already booked, and if I didn't want to go, I didn't have to go. It'd just be wasting her money if I didn't decide to go with her. So, like, after that day, I really put distance between Sabrina and I, and thankfully on February 16th, my brother and sister came over to Toronto to help support me and not have to be so reliant on finding comfort in Sabrina, and they just helped me get through the last couple weeks I had to stay in Toronto before leaving. No, I didn't ghost Sabrina, but the amount of times that we would talk would become more and more dispersed, which made sense because the day that I was going to be leaving was coming up. Now, this is what brings us to the second medical emergency that happened on February 25th. This happened in the middle of the night, and while yes, this was technically life-threatening, there was never a case throughout this whole situation that things were in any critical condition, and this whole situation was used for more of like preemptive measures so that if just in case something got worse, they'd be ready for it. Now, yes, I did support Sabrina throughout this whole situation to the best of my ability and as much as I felt comfortable. Thankfully, everything was resolved with a medical emergency, but she didn't like how I went about comforting her throughout that whole situation. So she asked if we could have a conversation on February 26th. I'm not gonna lie, I was very hesitant on going because not only did every night that I hung out with Sabrina before then ended in an uncomfortable conversation of her asking me to reconsider getting back together with her and possibly not moving and all the above. But I knew that Sabrina was going through a rough time, as well as I felt like I owed it to the relationship to give her some closure before I left, because I still cared about her. It was during this conversation on February 26th that she claims that I said I should not be the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth person you should be coming to for this. Now, not only is that not true, and I'm sure I did say some iteration of something like that, but I want to just ask you, if I were to say something like that to you, how would you feel? How would you respond? Would we ever talk again? I'm going to say probably not. I know for a fact that I did say something along the lines of I can't be so dependent on, especially when I'm leaving Toronto in 4 days, as well as we've been broken up for over a month. The way I remember that night was, it was like our final goodbye and the last bit of closure that you needed before we would go on our separate ways. There was a lot of crying involved from both sides. Like, we talked about possibly getting back together if things lined up down the line in the future, and we talked about all the happy moments that we had in our relationship and how lucky we were. We talked about how moving forward, what our social media platforms would look like. We also made the agreement this night about allowing each other to repurpose our content and both feeling comfortable with still portraying that narrative. And literally a couple minutes after, when she left and I was on my way back home, she sent me this message. And I want you to decide whether or not this conversation ended in a big fight or if it ended in a more of a mutual understanding and a sad ending to our story. She also asked me to promise her not to forget her, and we also talked about how we would portray each other in our lives moving forwards. We agreed that we would continue putting each other in a positive light moving forward because of how much we've both done for each other. And for the most part, I've kept up with that. I've always said and will continue to say that thanks to Sabrina and this relationship that I had with her, I've developed the most emotionally out of any point in my life. Like, I have so much to thank Sabrina for. I had some of the best times of my life in this relationship, but I most definitely had the most traumatic as well. I am honestly so proud of the person that I've become and I've grown into because of Sabrina's guidance and her relentless dedication to making me like the best version of myself. And I will always thank her for that. I'll be the first person to say that I'm not perfect. I'm not even close. I'm not the perfect boyfriend, especially not for Sabrina. And I could have went about this whole situation in so many better ways, and I don't know. I just didn't. But when my character and my image and my reputation is being questioned off of what Sabrina remembers in her notes app, it doesn't sit right with me, and I feel like I have to defend myself, especially after I tried my hardest to be there for her and support her through the breakup in a city that I'm not from, when some would say that I didn't really have to, but I did because I cared for her. And for the first part of my story that everyone hears it to be in that skewed version, it's just so unfortunate. I want to thank everyone that gave me time to explain my side before passing on their judgment. This has been a tough week. Not like one of the toughest of my life, I think. But regardless of that, I still care about Sabrina, and I tried not to include information that didn't provide context to the story that I was telling. This is just normal breakup stuff, but it's on the internet. And yeah, it's confusing navigating through it. It's been weird, but just trying your best, I think, is all anyone could ever ask for.